you doing?
Good.
Is this early for you on a Saturday?
No. Usually around 9:30. I'm up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What do you usually do when you wake up after, like on a weekend?
Make a cup of coffee. It's my first thing in the morning. I make with French press coffee, and I froth some milk and make a nice, delicious latte.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Do
I
you
started. Say what?
every morning? Do you do it every morning or just a treat on the weekends?
Pretty much every morning when I have time. I actually got into the habit of drinking my coffee in my room with my window open, just so I can like people watch at the bodega across the street and just kind of take the morning in for a little bit. Yeah, no, it's been really nice. It's become part of my routine to just sit for a minute and just watch people.
That's really nice, actually.
Yeah. I didn't used to do that. I used to just drink it like watching a YouTube video in the kitchen. Now it's just like, no, this is much nicer.
It is nice. And you know what? Actually, lots of good research on how getting early morning sunlight in your eyes helps you with sleep and your balancing your circadian rhythms.
Absolutely. I have like mood lighting in my room, so I have like light bulbs that change color, which I think are awesome because I think it's blue and green light have been shown to wake up our brain, and orange, red, and yellow have been shown to kind of like help it be more relaxed, which is why like everyone's iPhone has like that blue light filter now.
Right.
Now, but I'd had like a filter like that on my laptop for over a decade. And it just recently caught on. I was just like, yeah, if I just do this in my room. So another part of my morning routine is I wake up, like hit snooze on my alarm, turn my light on to blue, like prop my head up, just sit there for like a minute, allow myself to just slowly like wake up, and then I can just like get out and make my coffee. And as opposed to like fighting it tooth and nail, just hoping to not have to get up soon.
I fight with myself almost every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that I don't want to like seize the day and feel great about my life. With all that like self-help, self-development crap, what they always
the toxic positivity bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. But there's something about, I think, us as humans having a hard time with waking up. Well, first with an alarm, that's really unnatural. But that there's just like there's a transition in going through sleeping to waking that makes you kind of want to go back to sleep, but it's not that good for you, because if you do end up going back to sleep, it's not a full rest.
Yeah.
You end up being more groggy. You have weird dreams.
I think that the most success I had on waking up on time, feeling alert, was when my alarm clock was so absurdly loud that no person who's sane or of sound hearing could possibly go back to sleep after that. And like, I kept it for years. It was like an old clunky one that would just turn onto the radio, but it was just some like really loud morning radio where they're like screaming at you. And I'd always wake up with like my heart pounding, but I was always up on time. I never like couldn't go back to sleep. It worked like a charm. And I noticed today there's a bunch of similar types of alarm clocks that are meant to like fuck with you so that you can't go back to sleep.
Right.
There's one that's like a placemat where like it'll go off and you can't turn it off unless you like walk over and step on it. So it's like a welcome mat in your bedroom.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So I thought that was a really good idea. And then there was another one that was one that rolls around on your floor like a Roomba. And then there was one that
you have to find it.
Yeah, you have to like go catch it. And if you have to go find it. And then there's one that takes off like a little toy helicopter and flies around your room, and you have to go get it. Or I think that's the one you have to like shoot down with like a little dart gun or a laser gun or something. There's like a lot of creative ways that people have started to come up with, like not hitting the snooze button.
That's hilarious. I can't even. Somebody was telling me about the hatch, which sounds a lot more like my speed, which is like slowly the sun mimicking the sun rising, like having nature, natural sounds. I wake up to actually birds, and
that's
now
nice.
birds in like waves, ocean waves, which is lovely.
But is this an app or something, or is this just like outside your window?
Hatch is a device.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. And it sounds much nicer than chasing a helicopter.
I will say
So
this though,
bad in the
like just
morning.
get one of those old clunky like radio alarm clocks, like that tried and true. Just turn that sucker to full blast and you'll never hit snooze ever again. It's not pleasant.
Yeah.
I remember seeing someone online, I think he was a student at MIT.
Mhm.
He was an engineering student. He really struggled with his sleep schedule and could never like wake up in time for class. So he ended up inventing an alarm clock that would put hydraulics on his bed, so it would literally bounce him off of his own bed. And he posted a video on it, and like it looked very unpleasant because it's just literally like rocking him up. And, but like I was like, what a great idea. I can imagine just like at MIT when the pressure is at its probably peak in any single human's life. Just I was just like, yeah, you got to figure out a solution to this
Yeah,
problem.
exactly.
You managed to MacGyver your way into it. That's amazing.
I think I would wake up kind of laughing,
Yeah.
having to do that would, just kind
Or
of
with like a mild case of whiplash.
every day it's like a struggle. Except that, when I wake up and I do my morning routine, like I feel so great afterwards. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I could do this like an hour earlier.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have like so much more time in the morning. But
that's the new hipster trend, is like waking up at 4:30 in the morning or something. Which like it is like a new trend. Like 4:30 or 5 seems to be like, between 4:30 and 5:30. It's like a new young person trend where they all swear by it because like, yeah, you get to get up, get everything done before anyone else is up to bother you. You can be really productive, go to the whatever and do your thing if it's open. And I'm just like, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. I will never get to that point.
you would just have to go to bed earlier. And
You make it sound like that's so easy.
Well, no. I'm saying that's the hard thing, right? Because I follow this guy. I really enjoy his work. He's a neuroscientist, and he just talks about how I think he said something about like cortisol. It gets released like around 9 p.m. for some reason. I could be wrong, but that something happens at 9, and I feel like I do get a bit of energy at like 9. But if I wanted to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and get a decent amount of sleep, I'd have to like start getting in bed.
Yeah, you have to. But like, I think there's just so much more fun to be had in the late hours than there is in the early hours. I think I'd rather have enjoyment in the late hours of my day than productivity in the early hours of my day. Like, I think that's the trade-off I'm making. I'm okay with that. I don't need to wake up at 5. I don't need to. I bartended for a very long time. I used to go to sleep at 4 or 5. So at no point ever again do I ever want to be awake routinely around those times.
Right.
The hard part about a schedule like that is you have to be consistent with it, even on like weekends, or else every Monday and Tuesday, probably even a Wednesday, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm losing out on my complete social life in return to be productive for a couple hours in the morning. Like that, no.
Right.
Like that's like, isn't that like a, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. And it's funny, the other day, last week, actually, I have Sleep Cycle. And so on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, I turn it off. Sleep Cycle is an app. So it monitors your sleep. And so I've been monitoring my sleep. And then sometimes they send you messages. And this message I got which was last Sunday, was, I'm going to put a tone to it that I was feeling when I read it. Like, look, you really should be going to sleep and waking up at the same time that you do on the weekdays.
That's really funny.
On the weekends. But if you don't do that, then try to stay as close to possible to that schedule.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you? And then they're like, was this information helpful?
Anytime these fitness apps try and give like a little reminder, it always feels like condescending and judgmental. Because I have a Fitbit and it'll email you, I guess, when you haven't done anything. Hey, just wondering if you're going to get back on that like workout. It's just like, don't judge me. It's like, I bought you. You should be helping me. And like, I remember I was at JFK Airport. I was insanely late for like a flight, and I was full on sprint all the way through like 50 gates at JFK Airport. And like, I guess my heart was pounding full speed from running. And it was like, I was like panicking because I thought I was going to miss it. And then like, I just got to the gate and my little Fitbit started to vibrate. And I was like, what? I've never done that before. And I looked at it and she goes, breathe. It's okay. I was just like, okay, I can sense a panic attack coming on. Cool.
Let's chat about the train that we're on. So we're therapists on trains drinking tea, although you're drinking a latte. That's totally fine.
Latte for sure.
Latte.
Got it.
I'm drinking tea from Upton Teas.
Drinking Guatemalan coffee. I grind my own beans and all of it. Yeah.
You're so fancy. And then you did a French press, whatever that means.
You never used a French press?
I'm not into coffee. I've never been into it. I remember when I was younger thinking when one gets older, one will smoke cigarettes, drink beer. Yeah, shows you my childhood, right?
Yeah.
And then drink coffee. I do none of those. Well, cigars.
Yeah.
I used to drink wine, but I'm not really drinking much these days.
This like, it's no one wants to drink alone, so it's now is not the time, unless you're on like Zoom date or something.
Some people are drinking alone.
That's true.
But yeah.
Yeah. French press is like, it's like a big glass bottle, and instead of like a coffee filter, it uses like a metal mesh. So you put your coffee grounds in there, put the water in there, you kind of let it sit for about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you press the thing down, and then you pour the rest of it out, and it doesn't give you the coffee grounds. And I guess through a French press, in using a metal filter or like a mesh, it's leaving in a lot of the oils from the beans in the coffee that would normally be filtered out through a regular coffee machine. And in leaving the oils in the coffee, it's less bitter. So it's actually much more pleasant. And it's, for some reason, it's like much like thicker and chocolatier. It's really, really nice. I never had French press coffee until a little while ago. And I was just like, well, I threw down $200 for a coffee machine that I may never actually use again, but I'm still using the milk frother on the side of my coffee machine.
There you go.
Yeah. $200 milk frother.
That's really interesting. That's so cool. I would have never have thought that that's the shift is really the oil in the coffee beans that
there is a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
First time I had it, I was just like, this is really good. I'm like, yeah, it's French press. I was like, oh snap. And it's only like $20. You only get one for $20 and that's it. You're good.
This reminds me of the quality
versus efficiency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I talked about that a lot. No, I realized in my routines, I have a lot of things that focus way more on quality and almost like mindfulness based stuff as opposed to just being very quick. And I think this is a transition a lot of people go through. But for me, like when I was shaving, not really anymore, but when I was shaving, I used to have like, the Schick disposable, like the Gillette, whatever number they're up to at this point, or like an electric razor.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are amazing if you're okay with it. But I remember just like growing up, my dad would be like frantically running to work. He'd take his electric razor and he shaves in the car on the drive to work. Now, like, there's so many people that have talked about how like the first hours of your day can kind of, and definitely do dictate the pacing and the quality of the rest of the day, which is why I think that guy wrote that book about how the first thing you do in the morning should be making your bed, because it like helps pace out the rest of the day of being productive and organized. Mm-hmm. He's probably right, but I realized that my dad's first moments of the day is probably waking up slightly too late, getting in his car, realizing he doesn't have time for anything, not even to stop and shave, and he's just driving and doing this when he's in the car. It's been like that since I was a little kid. I remember at some point when I was still in Austin, I was bartending, I realized I just started doing the same thing just because I was like, oh shit, I woke up too late, or I didn't. It's like, okay. And then I realized I was like super stressed for like hours afterward. So I was just very interested by the concept of straight razor shaving, like the big Sweeney Todd cutthroat razor, because there's like, you have to be really slow. Yeah, it's super. First of all, it's just really badass. Like that was the first thing. I was like, this looks really cool. It's a very slow process. Pull it out, wipe off the oil, run it up and down the leather like a couple dozen times. Get your shaving soap and some warm water, lather it up, and like
soap.
soap. You don't use cream, use soap. Brush it on, and you kind of go through this whole process, and you have to very slowly, just kind of inch by inch, instead of just like, and well, the first couple dozen times I like cut the shit out of my face. But once you get better at it, it's become a very like Zen routine where like you do really have to focus, and like usually people shave in the very first moments of the day as part of their morning routine. So it's like this very Zen moment in the morning where you're focusing on not slitting your own throat, but it's afterward I'm much more calm, and the quality of shave afterward is baby butt smooth.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like that's this trade-off of like quality for efficiency. And I've noticed this in so many aspects of my life where just over time I've tried to cut out efficient things here and there and trade it for something that's higher end but takes more time. French press is one of them. Yeah, my coffee game is definitely one of them.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I do the same thing with tea. Like I only have like organic Upton tea usually. The quality Darjeeling is my favorite. So or like really quality green tea.
But like, you know, I think just, and this is something I noticed from living in Texas to New York, is New York, pretty much all aspects of it are very fast paced. Even during quarantine, I still notice fast paced lifestyle. Like the bodega across the street, I still, like the lady who runs it, she's like jogging in place right out front. Just like she's at work, starting the morning, like the morning rush, and she's already cramming in a workout at the same time. It's like, good for you.
Wow.
But I can only imagine just this like bombardment of stimulation and just rushing around for the rest of the day as to what that's like, as opposed to like taking some time for yourself, setting it aside and using that for something. And I noticed these mindfulness based activities are almost a godsend since moving up here to New York.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which we're definitely going to also chat about too. But first, what train are we on and where are we headed?
M train.
M-train?
The M train, because I love the M train. The other trains I've habitually had to ride were the A train, which I find to be the worst one in the entire city.
Why?
And because it's old. That's not why, but it's just like it's the oldest train line in the city, so it just consistently needs the most work. Well, sometimes it'll take me 45 minutes to get to Manhattan. Sometimes it'll take an hour and a half. You have no idea. And it's awful. That, and it's like, I don't know what it is about the people who ride it, but they feel it necessary to lock all of the train doors so you can't go from car to car. So if you happen to get on a car where someone's, I don't know, smelling awful or fighting or playing music that you don't want, you're stuck there. And as I said, it's very delayed between stops. So you may be stuck listening to that crap for about 20 minutes until you get to the next stop to be able to get off. It's a nightmare.
You had not had a good run
No.
train.
Ask anyone who's ridden the A train consistently, and they'll probably tell you worse stories than that. Anyway, somehow I'm on a rant about the A train. I don't want that. We're riding the M train. I've had nothing but positive experiences on the M train.
Well, okay, so I live off the A train,
Oh.
and I haven't had that experience.
You're on the A train in Manhattan.
Right.
I'm on the A train in Brooklyn, Queens, or I was on the A train in Brooklyn, Queens.
Okay.
Different story. I don't know what it is, but like there's a weird life to it where you get on and it's like shoulder to shoulder. There's like dancers, there's like music playing, and you're just like, oh God. And then like all of a sudden at like whatever stop, like the first or second stop in Manhattan, it just changes, and all of a sudden there's like a bunch of suits and yuppies, and you're like, what the hell? That was weird. But on our side of the river, it's awful over here.
Okay, so there's a shift. I love Showtime, by the way.
You love what?
It's called Showtime.
Oh, yeah.
Showtime. Did you in Hamilton actually? Probably not many people who are not New Yorkers don't get it, but the Broadway show, it's Showtime. They say it, and they say it, and so and it's so funny. There's a store, the MTA store, and they have these T-shirts, which I actually want to give give it to my friend because she used to hate the dancing, but it said something about like trains are not for showtime, or the poles are not for dancing. It's hilarious. It's such a funny T-shirt. But but it's a real, it's a real thing.
There's a guy who became like underground famous for selling things on the A train. I didn't know this. I encountered him every couple of days because I used to ride it every single day, late at night. He was selling like loose cigarettes or like bootleg DVDs or nutcrackers, which is just some like mystery cocktail in a little bottle that they will sell on the beach or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And every night on the A train, he would come on with like a rolling bag filled with ice and nutcrackers and all this other stuff. And he'd run down like this cool little shtick that like rhymed. And I was just like, oh, that guy's cool. Like, yeah, I've seen him a bunch. And then I remember I was still bartending in Manhattan, and someone was like, oh, you ride the A train? Did you ever encounter the take a sip, bust a lip guy? And I was like, I see that guy like every other day. He's like, yeah, everyone on the A train knows that guy. And then he would walk on and he'd be like, the store is open. Take a sip, bust a lip, capitalize, strategize, get your Lucy's, your nutcrackers, your DVDs. Come on up, it is open. And I learned that delivery because it was so like smooth and just fucking cool. And then like, I guess he got so relatively well known. He started coming on late at night to the A train with one of those T-shirts that has like the blue circle with the white A on it for A train. And like, there are a bunch of weird signatures on it. So I don't know who the hell's signing his shirt, but everyone who rides the A train has seen this guy at some point in the middle of the night. And it's just like, it's almost like a myth, a legend at this point, like some kind of ghost.
I never heard of this before.
Oh my God. He may only be on the Brooklyn side. I have no idea, but yeah.
Wow, I'm seeing all the good stuff. I gotta get out of the city. Maybe we should take the A train instead of the M. Sounds like it's much more exciting.
Fine.
No. So where are we headed on the M train?
Chelsea.
Okay.
Chelsea, or like Madison Square Park.
Oh, that's a nice area.
Yeah, we'll get Shake Shack.
I love Shake Shack.
Yeah.
I think they have the best burgers. Their fries not so good, but their burgers are so good.
So there is a regional dispute as to who has the best burger, and there's 3 contenders. Shake Shack for the Northeast up here.
Okay.
West Coast, they have In-N-Out Burger,
which I tried and I don't like.
It's not my favorite. However, you can't beat the price. It's so ridiculously cheap, and they haven't changed it. And then down south, we have Whataburger, which what a burger. What a burger.
Okay.
Now, I've tried all 3. Of course, I'm biased because I'm from there, but I will say Texas takes its beef very seriously to the point where it is quite literally my school's mascot. It's just a big Texas Longhorn.
Your mascot?
Texas Longhorn, baby. And yeah, and I've tried all of them. They all have their strengths. But man, nothing beats Whataburger. Can't beat it. If you ever make your way down south, they have them in the airport, and it's so worth it.
Just try it.
Just like all 3 of them, you're not gonna feel great afterward, but you will significantly more than the others.
I actually don't feel so bad having Shake Shack after Shake Shack.
What are you getting from there? Maybe I'm ordering just everything wrong.
A regular burger.
Fair enough.
I don't get cheese on.
Maybe I'm just projecting onto Shake Shack because I'm assuming Whataburger is significantly more unhealthy than Shake Shack or
because
In-N-Out.
I think that they make their patties out of like real beef. Like I don't think that they have a manufacturer.
Down south, because the South takes their beef so seriously, they at one point in, I think it was like 2010 or 2011, they realized that Taco Bell's beef didn't actually contain enough beef to be legally considered beef. So everyone's first question was, well, what the hell is in their beef if it's not beef? And apparently there became this big news story. I don't know if it was nationwide, but it's like about the pink goo they put,
slime, I think.
the pink slime, which they're like, yeah, here's what's most of the filler within things that would be considered beef in a lot of like fast food places. And we're all just like, what is it though? And they just like ran down this list of like a lot of chemicals, and like one of the ingredients was like horse meat, and I was just like, what? But as a response to this, I don't know if this also went nationwide, but in Texas, Taco Bell could no longer call their beef burritos because it's technically not beef.
Right.
They're now beefy. So it's no longer a noun, it's an adjective. So it's just like, oh, I see what you did. And apparently Starbucks did the same thing with their double chocolate chip Frappuccino. Apparently there wasn't enough chocolate to be considered a chocolate chip, so they called it a double chocolatey chip. Now, I remember I went to Starbucks like a week before they did this back in like 2008 or 2009. And I thought like the lady behind the counter was just making a really bad joke. She's like, yeah, as of next week, we're going to change the name from double chocolate chip to double chocolate chip because the FDA has deduced that there is not enough chocolate, so we are changing it. And I was just like, I don't care, but okay, thanks. And yeah, next week, double chocolatey chip nationwide.
See, now this is very angering and frustrating.
Because it's all semantics, yeah.
Well, it's crazy because, you know,
How does this make you feel? I'm seeing a lot of hostility all of a sudden.
It's so frustrating. Like the food system is the way that it is. There's so much additives, fillers, and all of these things. And the food companies get away with it for such a long time because the regulations are like, and I don't know too much about this, but I do know that, you know, we have been working with patients and as therapists for a bit now, and diet is such an important imperative part of mental health.
Agreed.
Like there's so much research now about the gut microbiome, and see, now I'm gonna go off.
No, that's what I wanted us to talk about anyway.
Right, and we have no idea like what those additives are actually doing to our human system, what those chemicals are doing to our human system. And because it's all a little bit here, a little bit there, the cumulative effect of, you know, how we're eating and what's happening is affecting our lives in ways we have like no idea.
Absolutely.
No idea. Physically, mentally, emotionally. And it's just so it's so frustrating to hear that. It's like, why not use fucking real chocolate?
Yeah.
So like when
because it's super expensive apparently.
Well, then again, it gets the quality with the quantity, and that's like things get really watered down, and it gets so frustrating because.
Speaking of chocolate, an interesting thing I learned recently is that a lot of Europeans in some ways refer to American milk chocolate as like vomit chocolate. And there's like a whole like history behind this, and like how, like, I think it was one of the guys behind like Hershey or something. He was trying to develop a way to like mass produce milk chocolate. Mm-hmm. And he had to do some process with like milk or some dairy product that creates the same enzyme that, or one of the same enzymes that's in like vomit. It's not vomit. It's just like one like molecule of something.
Oh, right. So there's
so there's like one thing that's chemically similar, and I'm probably don't do this. They're not as big on milk chocolate as Americans are. So a lot of American milk chocolate actually tastes a little bit like vomit to them. So American milk chocolate has developed this reputation for tasting like puke to Europeans, which I was just like, oh, whatever. That's the American way. Mass produce it, lower quality, but screw it.
Right. And then let companies just put in all kinds of chemicals and additives, and then we'll see what happens. And then you wonder why, you know, people are having heart disease and cancer and strokes, and then they blame people. Yeah. Oh, it's your fault. You don't take care of yourself. Oh, you're not exercising. Oh, you're not doing, you know, you're not eating right or well. Well, it's very hard to eat in a system that actually goes against your biological
absolutely
system.
I mean, that's one of the big lectures I give my clients. I think that's the most consistent one, is how we are routinely punishing our bodies, and how, because we do that, why would you even expect to be happy or fulfilled or like self-actualized throughout your life? Like the first thing is like our sedentary lifestyle and then our diet. Like those are the two things. Like sleep, sometimes we just can't help it, but I do encourage a lot of my clients to get consistent sleep because I think that is the most important one. But for diet and exercise, one of the things that makes humans at the top of the food chain is not just our intelligence and our big brain, but it's kind of our ability to run and sweat through our skin.
Right.
As like dogs and cats, they sweat through their tongue and they kind of have to breathe it out. So they can't run full speed and sweat at the same time. They have to run full speed and then stop for a few minutes to pant relentlessly. Meanwhile, humans, we just sweat through our skin. We keep running. We now have competitions to see who can kind of run the longest or finish this ridiculously long race first. And so we're not going to outrun a cheetah, but we're going to run it down because it's going to outrun us for about a minute, and we're going to just keep running for the next couple hours. And we're always good. And that's what made us able to hunt all of these animals. Fine. That's how we're built. That's how we're designed. That's how we're supposed to move. That's the equivalent of us like adequately fueling and maintaining our car. But the reality is that we don't really live in a hunter-gatherer society anymore. Everything is super efficient and instantaneous with like instant gratification. We don't have to hunt for our food. We literally can just have it delivered by Amazon these days or like a grocery delivery service. So, you know, most of us are sitting on our butts all day. And then when you do that, all of your stuff starts to break down. Like your joints start to wear out, muscles start to be imbalanced, like back starts to hurt, neck starts to hurt, like your posture's off. And then everyone just kind of goes, hey doc, I'm unhappy. What medications? It's like, well, hold on. This isn't really about medication. It's just about like kind of changing your complete lifestyle. And the other one is diet. And the main thing, like for anyone who watches this, the main thing I encourage you to do if you're going to do anything in your diet is just cut back on the sugar a lot. That's the one thing. And I know that's something I've tried to do for myself, and I've noticed amazing changes in just my quality of life, my weight, my health, and everything of just starting to do research and, you know, research in the sense of just picking up something from the grocery store shelf and turning it around. For the longest time, I thought orange juice was healthy. Getting my vitamin C, getting my minerals, getting all this great stuff. I didn't realize I was drinking something consistently that has more sugar than Coca-Cola. And then like once I realized that, I almost felt like personally offended, like a close friend had just stabbed me in the back because I drank orange juice for breakfast like every morning. Yeah, that's part of like the standard American breakfast is like a little glass of orange juice, a big glass of milk, and like waffles or cereals. And like it was something that I've had since I was like 4 years old. And I was like 24 when I figured out how much sugar was actually in it. And I just went, oh no. And there was like a weird withdrawal process from orange juice. And then just all the sugar that's in our food. And I'm from down south, so I've seen it at its absolute worst. At its most delicious, but it's also at its absolute worst. And I consistently see that with my clients. Take them to the break room to get coffee before a session. I'll maybe put one, sometimes two Splenda in my coffee, depending on how dark it's made. I've seen clients take a handful of 12, count out 12, swing it back and forth, rip all of them off like a strongman competition, ripping a phone book. They'll drop them all in their one like 8-ounce cup of coffee. And then there's so much it doesn't even dissolve. And one of my clients, I kind of said like, I don't think that's maybe the healthiest routine to have. She's like, I like it to taste like candy though. And my first response, and I probably should have chosen my words more carefully, but it just came out as really terse, was like, but it's not candy. That's why we have candy, so it's for things to taste like candy. You can't just work towards making a thing taste like another thing. That's why we have this other thing that tastes like this thing you like. It's like, I can't just make my steak taste like fish. It's why we have fish. Just, if you want candy, just eat candy. And I was like, wow, that came from a really weird place in the back of my brain. I don't know where that came from as far as like my reaction to seeing 12 sugars put into a coffee.
Well, I can't even imagine seeing that. Well, when I even see two, or honestly, hear you say that you're using Splenda, I have a reaction too.
Yeah.
Talk about Splenda. Why do you use that?
Less in sugar, and I actually enjoy the taste more. Because I only need one. It's sweet enough. Sometimes stevia or something, that's okay. But like, you know, it doesn't spike my blood sugar. So like, you know, I try and do keto diet, and I encourage a lot of people to do that just because it helps you be more conscious of sugar.
Yeah.
And yeah, I used to wake one Splenda, I think because I'm drinking a tall one. I had two today.
So I never could get down with Splenda or those like artificial sugars, because there's a taste to it, and luckily for some reason my brain is like, girl, no,
Yeah.
just don't even have it. And I remember what shifted my mind, because of course, you know, I drink tea. I was putting maybe like a tablespoon or less than a tablespoon of sugar every day in my tea, thinking that I wasn't adding, you know, like that was okay.
Mhm.
Until I watched the movie Fed Up. Have you ever seen Fed Up before?
No.
Oh, it's so good. You should watch it. It's really good. And it just shifted my whole mindset about sugar and what it does, and even
Yeah.
artificial sugars too, to
Yeah.
your brain and to your body. And so I just like totally cut, like the next day cut it out. And that was, I don't even know, whenever that movie came out, I saw it in the movie theater, 2000.
Yeah. That was my same reaction to seeing Super Size Me. I go, that's it, never again. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't realize just like what I was doing. Granted that movie is like a bit of a straw man, where he's like intentionally punishing himself and then pointing the finger at them. It's like, well, hold on. They never really intended for you to do this much, and you're kind of blaming. It's like, whatever. But it just does show like over time and like what these kinds of things can do to your body. And the consistent piece of like misinformation I hear is this term like natural sugar versus like processed sugar. It's like still sugar, your body kind of still processes it the same way. It still spikes your blood sugar the same way. So like that was my thinking whenever people are talking about all the sugar in orange juice or cranberry juice or apple juice. It's just like, yeah, but it's natural sugar. It's like still sugar. It's still doing the same thing. Yeah, like you need the fiber. You can have fruit, but if you're diabetic or you want to lower your blood sugar a little bit, maybe avoid grapes and bananas and like, you know, these other things that are habitually high in sugar, because again, it's still sugar.
Well, and you know, just to go back to what you were saying about what makes us unique as humans, right, is that ability to run and to have that sweat, that salt,
Yeah.
water balance. So with sugar, we didn't have the access to it like we have now.
Yeah.
And the issue is that before we used to just get it through natural, like honey, through sugarcane, if we were in certain parts of the world. And so our bodies like sugar for the short-term benefits of it. And everything does turn into sugar except for fat, right?
Yeah.
And so the problem is that we're having so much of it that our body just doesn't know what to do with it, and it gets stored in our fat cells. And then once it's stored there, and also too, they've studies have shown too that there's our microbiome, there's certain like bacteria and yeast that proliferate with sugars, and so then that kind of makes your gut microbiome misbalanced, like gut dysbiosis is what it's called. And then you end up actually craving more sugars. They know that like there's some signals that get sent to your brain to have that.
Oh yeah.
And then your fat cells want you to have more sugar, because it's like, okay, wait, we're waiting for like a famine or something to happen. So let's just like kind of pile it all on. So it's really hard. I mean, I feel so sympathetic for people, because I know like if I have something that has sugar in it, I'm much more likely to have more things that have sugar in it, because I've, you know, made this.
Usually there's like a 2-week life to it, where it's like if you've got like a high sugar diet and you go, I want to quit, it's like, okay, you expect to have cravings, pretty intense cravings for the first 3 days, and then like maybe a couple days within the first 2 weeks. And then if you can get past 2 weeks, usually your body stops craving those things again, and you're golden. But like any drug, like for anyone who's tried to quit coffee or caffeine and sugar, your body has these weird withdrawal symptoms, which like that shouldn't be happening with things that we are supposed, like that we eat or drink routinely. Like we shouldn't be having withdrawal symptoms, because that's indicative of that there's some kind of drug that our body has just like latched onto artificially. So like what does that tell me about just how harmful sugar is? Like, well, my body's kind of reacting to this in the same way that like any other hardcore pill or powder that's probably illegal, that there would be more, you know, stringent regulations on the FDA allows to be on our shelves, and probably not anytime soon. We have a lot else to focus on first.
That's a dream.
Yeah, right. But
That's
like when you kind of realize all these loopholes these food companies have of like, hey, it's got no sugar, and then you look at it and in the ingredients it's got like sucrose and dextrose and like all these things that are sugar, just another name for it. And you're just like, oh. It's like this shouldn't be allowed, but it is, and it's at the the benefit of these food companies and at the expense of the uninformed American citizen. I think I remember hearing like one of the best tips for people to go shopping at a grocery store is shop along the outside. If it's on the outside, you're good, because that's usually your produce, your meat, and like the other stuff, the stuff that's not really that processed. And then you go up and down the aisles, you see your cereal, your canned goods, the stuff in bags, and all this other stuff that you're not supposed to have. But like you can just get by with the stuff on the outside rim. And I remember one of the other things that I talk to my clients about is this concept of a healthy diet, and how this isn't just you doing this of your own accord. You quite literally have everything and everyone and like pretty much the world working against you. Mm-hmm. But if you're aware of this, it may make all the difference. And their first reaction is, what do you mean everyone's working against me? I was like, I want you to think of all the food places close to my therapy office. And the first one is like Chipotle. Then there's like Popeyes, McDonald's, a Burger King, and like these other places like an IHOP, and like a couple of bakeries. I go, okay, now I want you to think of a healthy place right around here to eat. And I usually can't think of one. And okay, picture your grocery store, your biggest grocery store. Okay, get it in your mind. What do you think is the most common item bought in a grocery store historically? Well, it's milk. Milk's the most common one. We used to have it delivered onto our front doorsteps back in like the 50s. So, okay, that makes sense. I want you to picture where the milk is in your grocery store. They go, it's in the very back. I go, that's not just your grocery store. That's every grocery store in the entire country. And they do this for exact purposes, to get you to walk through the entire store to see all the other stuff, to get you to buy, see all their sales, see the deals, get enticed by something. And if you're good enough to not do that, to not buy anything off of the shelves, as you're checking out, they take one last Hail Mary swing of like a candy bar for 99 cents, or packs of gum, or a soda for $1. And that's what they call impulse buys. Like they're honestly trying as hard as they can to get you to do everything that you're probably not supposed to with your diet.
But without a lot of people, your awareness.
Exactly. Now, if you know walking into a grocery store that you're about to be bombarded by like temptation, and it kind of in some ways is like some evil guy twirling his curly mustache, just hoping for you to pick up a box of cereal because they know these kinds of things are super addictive and that you'll more likely be back again. That's, I think, why they put like all the sweets right at the checkout counter, because they know that's probably the most addictive stuff. But even being aware of this kind of stuff is like half the battle. Being aware of the pitfalls within one's diet is half the battle. And then it's just about kind of working towards resisting these temptations.
Oh, yeah. That's so great. Thank you so much for sharing that and saying that, because so many things that are coming to my mind, but one in particular is that unconscious way that advertisers, big companies, like companies just know how our brains work so much better than we know how our brains work.
There are people like you and me in our profession who consult these companies on how to properly advertise things like that. In the same way that there are people like you and me who consult gaming companies in Vegas to figure out how to make things more addictive. Yeah, it's the same kind of science. Mm-hmm. And I there's like a few stand-up comedy bits just about like children's cereal versus adult cereal, and how children's cereal box is super colorful. There's a cartoon character on the back. There's like a maze or a puzzle or a word search. And if you've ever seen a commercial for a children's cereal, they've somehow managed to cram an entire story arc within a 30-second block with like character development, like a denouement, a resolution of everything, of like Tony the Tiger winning like a soccer game and the kids all running to be like, yeah, and he's like pouring them cereal and milk. It's just like, you just crammed in like a sports movie in 30 seconds. like, and you just kind of like subconsciously like, bombarded them with like this idea of Frosted Flakes as being this thing that you won the soccer game about. And then you look at an adult cereal and it's like a beige box. There's some pictures of like wheat or barley or berries or just like oats. And you're just kind of like sitting there, and on the back it talks about the farm that the cereal was made. It's like, okay, so why aren't they trying that hard with us? It's like, no, they are. They know you're going to be attracted to these bright colors, but they're honestly going after the very vulnerable and the ignorant, the children, which is kind of what McDonald's used to do, and Burger King with these toys and these Happy Meals. And then people kind of caught on as a wake of actually Supersize Me. And then I think they took away McDonald's ability to either give toys or to advertise toys. I can't remember which one. It may have been both.
Probably advertise, because I think they still have like little toys in the Happy Meals. Yeah, they're so susceptible. And then, you know, the parents.
So are we as adults, though.
Yeah. But even like early on, like the just the malleability of their brains and yeah, it's really scary when you think about it.
But yeah, what consider like the fact that we're being bombarded with advertisements for stuff that we're mostly not even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, usually the stuff that is being heavily advertised to us is the stuff that's actually killing us. And most people aren't even any the wiser. Everything from grocery store structure, how everything's advertised, like the bright colors on these things, like the misinformation they give, like what was it, like Lucky Strikes, the cigarette company, they used to just say it's toasted. It's just like, it doesn't mean anything. It's still cigarettes, but no one even thought twice about it. I saw that on like Mad Men, and that was like an actual advertising campaign. Was all the information started coming out about the harms of cigarettes. Lucky Strike said, Lucky Strike, it's toasted. And everyone just kind of went, that must mean it's healthier. No, it doesn't. We assumed it did, and they know this. And like, there's so much of that. Orange juice, V8. I remember V8 realizing that it's not just vegetable juice where you get everything that you love and need throughout the day. It's basically salt water, and you're going to give yourself a heart attack within about a year. And like, once you realize these things that are advertised as healthy are maybe some of the worst things for us, it becomes so endlessly frustrating. Good example is Naked Juice. Naked Juice prizes itself off of being this healthy juice alternative from Tropicana. It's like, it's just as much sugar, just as much. And we just go, oh, it's naked, which means they got rid of all of the bad stuff. Like, that's not what that means. They knew we were going to think that. So we still think that. Yeah. And then, frequently people will come into my office, or probably, to your office, and be like, overweight, not sleeping, sedentary lifestyle. They go, Doc, I don't feel well. Like, I think I've got depression. What should we do? What medication should I take? It's just like, well, hold on. Let's focus on a couple other things first.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Other things first.
Yeah, it's the same thing a lot of the psychs have to say when they go, like, okay, you have anxiety. Before I prescribe you anything, how much caffeine do you drink? And then some of the answers I've heard are absolutely staggering. Like, probably 8 cups a day. What? Like, no wonder you're not sleeping. Probably tired all the time, not exercising, and that seems like probably a lot of sugar, especially if you're one of those people that puts 12 sugars in each one. It's like, my goodness. And we wonder why, like, there's now, like, it's almost become like part of the zeitgeist where it's just like, yeah, everyone's unhappy. Everyone's kind of, that's a thing. It's just like, everyone's diet and like part of their physical health stuff is so far away from where it should be. Is it any wonder that all of us feel like trash all the time? Now quarantine's happening. So, there was a while there, we couldn't go grocery shopping in the way that we wanted. We couldn't go exercising the way that we wanted. We were probably panicking, so we weren't sleeping the way that we wanted.
We couldn't socialize.
So you couldn't even get that kind of sense of regeneration. So yeah, everyone just kind of, like, everything started to like fall apart in a lot of people. So yeah. And a lot of these, I'm not saying that like, if you're unhappy, fix all your physical health, you'll be happy. It's more like, if you're unhappy, fix your physical health, see if you're still unhappy, and then come back and talk to us.
Well, but the thing is, though, you need to talk to us anyways while you are fixing your physical
Absolutely.
health. Absolutely. It's so hard to be accountable. Like, there's like you said, there's so much against being healthy and taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure of work, you know, spending 8 hours a day at work, but then even trying to spend 15 minutes or 5 minutes of meditating or mindfulness is like, oh, I just don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
I think that helping people to reset priorities is probably the number one job that I do with people.
Absolutely.
And then giving them like compassion and kindness about why they're acting the way that they're
Of
acting or
course.
doing what they're doing. Like, you know, I work with a lot of people who obviously are type A personalities and who have weight issues, you know, trying to stop, you know, decreasing caffeine or decreasing sugar. And it's such a challenge. It's just not easy. It's like all the things are just so like against having this kind of healthy lifestyle. It's almost like you have to reset your
Yeah.
mind and you have to reset your priorities, which is not easy because then it's like, oh, okay, well, I have to make some major changes and also do things that are not going to be so pleasing to other people, which I will feel guilty about, which I
Yeah.
will also be shamed for,
Yeah.
like at work, right? If I'm not like checking my email at 7 o'clock at night, then my boss is going to say, "Oh, okay, well, you know what was going on there," or you know, they might make a comment, or maybe they won't. That also could be like an internalized like feeling of, "Oh, I should." Of, well, this is where we come in. The
Yeah.
psychodynamic part of working with patients about the internalization of what they think their boss might be thinking about them, that's making them or running them unconsciously to continue to do things that in actuality are not setting their lives as a priority, but setting their what they think their boss or the expectation of their work thinks for them. So anyway, that's like,
See, and that's like this weird cyclical nature of it. It's like if our physical health is off, our mental health is going to be off. If our mental health is off, we're going to experience a lot of that. And as a result of that, we're probably going to reach for these external factors for coping, such as food, drugs, alcohol, or these other things that are addictive. And like there's this weird cycle to it. And yeah, no, it's really rotten. Honestly, like, you know, each one of our clients is very unique, you know, in so many ways. But one of the things I see that's probably most common is that most people, if not all of my clients, are not fully taking care of their physical health, which is kind of impossible. Otherwise, it becomes like an obsession. But there's still a lot of room for improvement. And you're right. Like when it comes to making these big lifestyle changes, you're not on your own. I didn't mean for it to make it sound like I was like dismissing them until they like get their ass in the gym. Like, no, it's like, no, that's just something we work on together. Because a lot of people don't look at sugar or food or caffeine as like an addiction or a drug. They look at like heroin, other things as like, he's a drug addict. In some ways, you know, I feel bad for him. But when we see like an obese person, we kind of like judge them as like being just like a piece of shit. We have so much sympathy for a lot of people who go through a mental health issue, depression, anxiety, PTSD, you know, personality disorders or like some psychotic disorders. And in some ways, there's a lot less empathy for addicts, but for like someone who's an alcoholic or heroin addict, there's still like a sense of empathy. But I've seen almost across the board no empathy for people struggling with their weight or sugar addiction or just an eating disorder of some sort. They just go, what's the matter with you?
yeah,
Stop it. You're killing yourself. Yeah. And I'm not entirely sure where that comes from. It may just be misinformation as to like how addictive and harmful sugar actually is. And I think it's the fact that we have to eat food. So most people are eating food and they're not doing this to themselves. But it's, you know, different of being caught up in just this weird cycle of heroin that most people will never even come close to. So they go, oh, that seems rough. He must have just been caught in a weird spot. When it comes to like overeating and obesity, they go, well, he's just lazy and just he's like a fat piece of crap. It's just like, I'm not eating myself to death 3 times a day. He is. It's like, yes, but there may be also something going on with them where this is what the symptom is. This isn't the problem. This is the symptom.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real challenge, and I think that you're right. Do you know Dr. Gerber Mate? He does a lot of stuff on addiction and trauma. a lot about addiction, and he has several books, but one is in the realm of Hungry Ghosts, talking about, you know, that Buddhist. Well, in Buddhism, they have the long explanation, but basically there's a small mouth and like a big stomach. Like people are constantly consuming things and nothing ever really gets like filled.
Yeah.
So that, but that you can do that with anything. Like anything can really be an addiction. I mean, I'm sure like
Absolutely.
like all that stuff is our addictions, and anything can be addicted. Work definitely like is addictive.
Yeah.
Just trying to understand the underlying reason as to why it is you're using that to help yourself to feel better.
Yeah.
And working with somebody to try to help them with understanding that, and then also having a lot of compassion and
Yeah.
themselves first and foremost about that, because it is really it's a real challenge. We are fighting like biology, we're fighting like society and the way in which we're supposed to be, like what our priorities are supposed to be in society, which are like usually external stuff, power, status, looks, beauty, like all these things that at the end of the day don't really, it's not like filling in you as a human being. You know, we know relationships, we know friendships, we know connecting, we know, you know, taking care of ourselves, having a good relationship with ourselves. Those are the things that are really important. Our physical health. I mean, just today, I don't know if you've heard about this, but Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah. Black Panther.
Yeah, 43.
That's
Cancer.
upsetting.
I mean, every time I think about it, I'll start crying. But it's just like, it's just so sad that like that our priorities are not. I'm not saying like I don't know what happened, but like cancer is a really difficult thing. And going to be susceptible at some point to it. I mean, the statistics like are 1 out of 2 women, 1 out of 3 men.
Yeah.
It probably, you know, at some point everybody will have some sort of cancer. Or I mean, I think we also have like these cancer cells within us that our bodies are constantly fighting anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it makes it harder when the environment is not conducive to have to be for humans. There are chemicals, there's additives, there's pollution, there's so many things that our bodies have to constantly kind of fight. That's one thing, which our bodies are actually really good at.
Yeah.
Except that now it's getting overwhelming. But then there's also this like stress part of living up to this idea of what people want or what society wants us to be. And that impacts your immune system profoundly, because people are constantly kind of like chronically stressed and overwhelmed, and especially with everything that's going on, that sense of uncertainty keeps us in that chronic stress mode. Anyways, it's a long kind of
Yeah, I mean, it's about how, you know, the things we put in our body can and do negatively impact our mental health. It's such a big part. It's probably, in my opinion, it's maybe one of the biggest parts of mental health. It's like how it is we're abusing our bodies. And I you know, the most pervasive one is like food addiction, sugar addiction, just the things that were in the sedentary lifestyle and lack of sleep hygiene. Again, like this doesn't guarantee happiness and fulfillment and self-actualization. It's fixing these things, but it makes it significantly more likely. Because think about, like, we've had all of these really great advances in medical technology to extend our life from what used to be like an average of like 35, 40 to like up to like 80, 83, right? 80, like 4 for men, or like 87 for women. It's like, but think about how this is completely like being counteracted by like the changes in our food that we get. It's just like, so sugar, processing foods, and lots of sodium and like all these other chemicals. And it's just like, oh my God. It's like they're fighting it tooth and nail. And it's really upsetting.
Yeah, no, it is very upsetting.
Yeah.